just a little bit about him. He is a 2.5-year-old full-bred English Labrador Retriever. He's a yellow lab, and he is my second service dog. A service dog is a dog that helps someone with a disability have greater independence, does some particular skills to help people have greater independence. And people look at me and go, you don't have a disability, but as many of you know, you don't see a lot of things that are challenging for people. So the original task he was trained to do was alert to panic attacks. I have anxiety, and at the time I was still working in schools, and he came to school with me, and instead of having to go in bathrooms and hide when I was getting really anxious, I had this dog going, I think you need to take a break here, lady. And we'd go outside and walk, and I thought maybe he needed to go to the bathroom, but no, he was telling me, chill out, it's all good. And since then, I am no longer in that position, and amazingly, my anxiety got a whole lot better. Imagine that. Do we have any educators in the room? Bless you all, because I honestly believe this is one of the hardest jobs right now in our country. And it's getting harder and harder every single day. And the stress is very, very real for everyone. And I've been a classroom teacher, I've been a school counselor, I've worked with high school all the way down to kindergartners and pre-K, and it doesn't matter what level you're at when you're living in this do more with less, it's very, very difficult. And then you throw in the fact that most educators are there because they want to make a difference, so that we do more than is expected, we go overboard with even less. That got to be too much for me. I was not in a position where I was able to use my skills and my strengths that I really, really love doing. I love working with people, and it's amazing. As a school counselor, I didn't get to work with a lot of people, which sounds a little ironic, but you know, that's the way things are in education now. So Digby is my second service dog. He is also trained. I have Meniere's disease and can have vertigo hit at any moment, and it's very bad on stairs. I don't know if it's just seeing the railings go by my eyes. I don't know what it is, but I get very dizzy on stairs, and he is a pro. He learned to climb stairs at my own house. My first service dog taught him actually how to go down the stairs, and because he was at the top and didn't know what to do. He was 7 months old, was trained in a prison, had never seen stairs in his life, and I got him at that time to help train him to be in public. So I was actually part of his training process. He is now the best at stairs. That's his forte. And I mean, I stop, he stops. If I stop too long, he'll go stand in front of me. Hi, buddy. Sit. Good boy. Down. I also have developed diabetes, and he has been trained also to check my blood sugar, which is just an amazing thing that dogs can do. Dogs can do so many amazing things, and he has changed my life. My first dog, Beijing, changed my life as well, and I just can't even imagine not working with dogs anymore. On top of that, in my coaching business, I work with, I'm a life coach, but I help people with executive function challenges. Many of my clients have ADHD, and Digby, I think, meets all the diagnostic criteria for ADD. And so when I have an 8-year-old working on a goal to help stay focused on a task, Digby also needs that help. And the kids help me with his training and help him come up with strategies that can help him stay focused on his work and leave aside all those distractions. And so he really helps me a lot when I'm working with children. And then there's my adults who have anxiety who come in, and he knows it, and they go right over and his head is in their lap, and he'll lick their hands a little bit like, are you okay there? So he's a wonder dog, I just have to say. For those of you who might have seen me outside the door, it's not always fun and games when you have a service dog. Being out of town, being off schedule, he had an accident from the ladies' room, and I felt terrible about that. He's on a very tight schedule, but being out of his element with all the kind of stress that he doesn't normally have to manage, you know how your own digestive tract can get when you're not at home. So anyway, it's not all fun and games. It's a lot of hard work having a dog. If you ever want to consider having a dog, that's a piece you really need to think about. But if you ever are thinking about it, always feel free to give me a call, because I can talk you through some of the things. I can help you find resources about it. And dogs can change your life, but it's a very, very big, big, big responsibility. And so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Like it was mentioned, I've been in education. 26 years was my last year. I was done after that and did a lot of coach training so I could have the credentials to do that, even though coaching isn't a regulated field. I actually love working with people with executive function challenges, and I did this in school and always was drawn to the kids who just couldn't get their work done because it was boring, or they were defiant and avoided it. There's a lot of ways to get out of work when you're 8 years old, and some of them are not quite so pretty, but I understood that about the kids, that they just were being asked to do things they couldn't manage. And where do you go? You know, if you want to learn reading, you go to your reading class. If you want to learn math, you go to your math class. If you want to learn planning, where do you go? Your teacher hands you a planner and says, here you go plan. And that's, some kids can pick that up right away and learn how to do that on their own. My daughter, I'm pretty sure at the age of 3, could plan her own wedding. She's 27 now and finishing up her PhD, and she has always had it. My son, on the other hand, has multiple disabilities. His main one is autism, but he has many executive function challenges, and he needs to be explicitly taught how to do a lot of these things. So that's where a lot of my interest came from, as I saw these kids in schools and nobody was teaching them how to do this. So I ran little junior executive groups, and we learned about time and becoming aware of time and how to look at the end so that you could plan backwards and all these things, how to focus. Interestingly, my daughter, she's getting her PhD in sports psychology, and she works with teams at the University of Missouri. And I was talking to her one day, and she said, I said, well, what's it like when you're working with some of the athletes? She goes, well, we always start out by teaching them to focus. And I'm like, whoa, hold the phone. I work with people with ADHD and a lot of executive functions challenges. How do you teach somebody how to focus? And there's a model in sports psychology that I've now adapted and using with executive functions, and it's really kind of fun. You can do it. It's a skill. So that's the thing to remember. Getting things done can be difficult, but it's just skills. And you can learn these skills when you finally figure out which ones they are. So that's executive function skills. You're going to learn that today. What are they? How do our individual strengths help us manage day-to-day executive function skills? And what are some strategies for planning, prioritizing, time management? I want to give you tools that you can walk out with. So I have a clock here because we are going to talk about time. And would you be my timekeeper, sure, my watcher? This is what I call a working clock. There's a woman by the name of Sarah Ward. She invented this, not me, and her partner, Kristen Jacobson. They are both speech and language pathologists. This is all credit to her. She calls it a working clock. And basically what we are doing, and as I'm mapping out how I would like in a classroom. So this brown part, can you see the brown part I marked off with a dry erase marker? That's what we're doing right now. I'm kind of telling you a little bit about me and kind of what executive functions are. This next part right here, we're going to look at strengths and also some tools to set yourself up for success. Anytime you want to make a change in your life, that's what coaching is for. We help people make those changes. We help people put the rubber to the road and actually go out and do something differently. And so there's a process for that. And then this red part here, hopefully, if I've estimated somewhat closely, we will be using this time to talk about those tools and what you can actually do and how to use a working clock. This is one of the things that we'll talk about. Tell me your name.
Stephanie.
Stephanie is going to help me with my time management because I do have executive function challenges myself. And Stephanie, we're still in the brown, right? Are we good? I can tell you we're probably going to go a little over, and that happens, right? If we go over, we will adjust, and time is kind of like money. You know, you have to budget it. And if you've ever tried to pay your bills and you've spent more on groceries than you planned, then you cut it from somewhere else. And time is the exact same way. So I'm not perfect at estimating time. Nobody is. So we're going to try to see if we can do that. Just so you know, too, the PowerPoint I'm going to put on my website. So if you would like to look it up, I will be putting it on there probably by the time the conference is finished on Sunday. And my website is, it was on the slide before, it's www.med.org. execskills, EXECSKILLS.com. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I don't know. Okay, we'll find out. We have people, because that's not my strength. Which is a really good strategy, delegate, right? Things you're not good at, delegate. So I want you to be able to see the PowerPoint if you want it, and I will put it on my website. I think they may try to put it on the Turner Syndrome website as well. But let's go on. This we're going to skip because I can't get it to work, but I'll tell you about it. How many of you have seen The Santa Claus? Anybody seen that movie with Tim Allen? And he's cooking Thanksgiving dinner? Oh my gosh, it is my executive function nightmare. I have a good friend who often has Thanksgiving. Her daughters come to my house, and she has Thanksgiving with our family, and I have all these dishes ready to go, and the recipes and the ingredients, and I'm like, okay, we'll do this over here, and then, okay, no, wait, we got to peel these sweet potatoes. Oh, wait a second, we got to go over here and baste the turkey. Oh, wait, the dressing is still in the fridge. Oh my gosh, we got to take that out. And a nightmare. And my friend Flo says, Diane, you're going to do this dish. Stand right here. Here's your recipe. Here's your ingredients. I'll take the sweet potato casserole. Jenna will do the green beans. Somebody else will do this. I mean, she was in there, Miss Organization, Miss Executive Function. And I have to say that to myself now when my friend Flo is not around. Just do this. And otherwise, how many of you have trouble getting things done? Oh my goodness. My husband, I joke with him. I say, honey, if I'm the one to go before you do, on my tombstone, I want you to write, she finally finished something. Because it is so frustrating. And I have to work very, very hard to actually get it done. So Tim Allen has the same problem, ends up at Denny's. It's a funny, funny scene. Totally describes Thanksgiving at my house. These things may sound familiar. She can't pay attention. Think before you speak. Oh, she's so irresponsible. Oh my gosh, I never finish anything. All of these things really are just what a lot of people might say, even to yourself, when you don't really understand it's a skill that you're missing. So we're going to learn those skills. We're going to talk about those. Here's a definition. There's lots of definitions of executive functioning skills. The executive functions are a set of processes that all have to do with managing oneself, one's resources, like time and ingredients at Thanksgiving, in order to achieve a goal. Does that make sense? You got to manage yourself. I have to calm my brain down on Thanksgiving morning. I have to manage all my ingredients, and then I want dinner at a certain time. That's my goal. Basically, I think the easiest way to look at executive functions, it's the skills that it takes to get something done. Just that simple. If you're having trouble getting something done, there's probably an executive function skill that might be a little weak. We can divide them into mental skills, like planning, organization, prioritizing, sustaining your attention, working memory, all those skills. And then there's emotional skills. Controlling your impulses or your behaviors, controlling your feelings, because when we are very, very emotional, that part turns off. The executive functions don't work, so we have to calm that down. And then being flexible, that's also another skill. This is your brain, and I pointed right here. This is your prefrontal cortex. Everybody make a brain. This is what I'm doing with the kids, by the way. This is your brain, right? This right here is your prefrontal cortex. And this right here is your amygdala. With little kids, there's a lot of different names. You might have heard it, your lizard brain and your wizard brain, because this is where your gut reflexes for fight or flight originate. This is where your thinking is, so your wizard brain and your lizard brain. Sometimes it's called your guard dog and your wise owl. For my little bitty ones, I call it that. And what happens is the amygdala is where information comes in, and it's like the switching station. Is this something really, really bad? Like if the fire alarms went off right now, our amygdala would go, whoa, you don't need to think about this presentation, you need to get out of the building. And your heart rate would increase, you'd go into fight or flight mode or freeze is another one, and your muscles would be ready to get you out of here. And you would have the energy to do that. Your adrenal glands kick in. And otherwise, it says, okay, you're going to cook Thanksgiving, all right? You need these skills. The amygdala, when it's okay, we'll send that on up to the prefrontal cortex, unless you have a wiring issue like I do, or if your amygdala misinterprets it. When I was in 4th grade, my amygdala was trained to think that math was going to eat me for dinner. It was a little misinformed, but it stuck with me my whole life. And my amygdala would go, holy moly, and my prefrontal cortex would shut off, and my heart rate would increase, and then I would fall apart, and I would cry, and there was no thinking. Homework was awful because I couldn't think, because I was so emotionally upset about not understanding math. So our amygdalas can be a little misinformed. That's why human beings have a lot of stress. It's not because we're about to be eaten for dinner or breakfast and the building's not burning down. It's just Thanksgiving dinner, right? But we don't always know that. So that's kind of how some people have problems with executive functions, because their amygdalas are perceiving stress all the time and routing it to the fight or flight area of your brain and not the thinking part. They're used in daily life all the time. Paying bills we have here. Driving requires all kinds of executive functions. Planning events, planning appointments, keeping track of where you're supposed to be. Even like being friends with someone, friendship skills. Planning a vacation. Oh, wow, we just did that and I went down to Texas, and my husband was like, well, I'm ready. My suitcase is packed. And me and my amygdala were going, why don't you why aren't you helping? Everybody else has to go too. What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? And meanwhile, it's 1 in the morning, I'm still like, where's the sunscreen? So it's really, really a big process to do some of these things, planning your meals. There are some things that you can do to set yourself up for success. So how are we doing, Stephanie? We're in the green, we're a little bit behind, right? But we're going to make up for it, I promise you. I can talk really fast. This is where, whenever you want to make some changes, you really want to think about setting yourself up for success. So we're going to talk about each of these little stages, because like I tell my clients, unfortunately, I have no magic wand. I cannot go poof, and all of a sudden, you can plan Thanksgiving dinner with no stress, and it comes out perfectly. There's no magic wand, I hate to tell you. But you can do some things to set yourself up. How many of you have set a goal and you worked on it, and after 2 days it's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. New Year's resolutions, they never make it the whole year, do they? Because usually they're not a goal that you're able to achieve in one giant step like that. So one of the things is knowing your strengths. And I think this is super, super important. One of the tools that I use with clients is called the VIA, the Values in Action. And the link is right here if you aren't going to look up my website to get the handouts. It's VIAcharacter, all one word, .org. It's a free assessment, and it was developed partially by a man named Martin Seligman, who's the father of positive psychology. He became depressed, and he sought treatment, and he did therapy, and he got worse because the treatment focused on what was wrong. And the more he thought about what was wrong, the worse he got. And here he was a psychologist, so I can only imagine he went, whoa, what am I doing in this field? How am I going to help people when I'm getting worse? And so he asked the question, what do we do what would happen if we focus on what is right? And so he looked at people's strengths, and he developed a whole system for that. And coaching is based on the VIA. So it's really a great thing, viacharacter.org. This poster is actually on their website. It's a free assessment. There's 24 strengths. And everybody has all 24 of them. So you'll get this paper back, and after you look at the bottom and after you go to the end to see what's last, you learn that the top 5 to 7 strengths are called your character strengths. And I think of them as cards in your hand. When you're playing those 5 to 7 cards, they're your favorite cards. You're happy, you're doing well, you really enjoy life, you're kind of clicking on all cylinders. But sometimes things will come up and you'll need some of those other strengths. And we call those your situational strengths. And they're like cards. You still have them. You just keep them in your back pocket because they're not your favorites. But if you need them, you can pull them out and you can use them. So my top strengths are appreciation of beauty and excellence. So for me, that comes out as I love being out in the outdoors. I'm in awe of nature. I think that's just amazing. And I love finding out who people really are. And I appreciate people for who they are. And that's kind of how my appreciation of beauty and excellence comes out. Creativity is one of my strengths. I can think of all these ideas. Sometimes that's a little scary because it's busy up there. Humor, that saves me many times. Humor is my number 3 strength. I like to be playful and light because things can be serious, and I like to keep it as positive as possible. Hope, it's a new one that came up for me after I left public schools. And hope is a strength that you know the future can be better and you're willing to work for it. So I was able to start my new business and coaching, get coach training. I wasn't somebody who quit a job, ever. And I certainly knew nothing about starting a business. But hope helped me learn all those things and learn to do that. Judgment is being able to look at a solution, but look at it from all different sides before you make a decision. And actually, it's not being judgmental, it's really being open-minded. And you can look at things from all sides, and if you get new information, you can change your mind. So you're actually kind of open-minded when you have high judgment as a strength. Curiosity, I mean, that fits my life now as a coach. I don't have answers for people, but I am so curious about you, and I can ask you questions and help people think about things, and because I don't know the answer, but I'm curious, and I can ask you questions and help you learn about those things for yourself. And then you might notice zest. I'm a go-getter. Also a strength that came up from my public school days. I think zest was number 17 and hope I think was number 20. But I left that job and 2 of my strengths dropped out and those 2 popped to the top. And I think this really is kind of who I am in a nutshell. But there's a lot of other strengths. I encourage everyone and anyone you know. It can go down to age 10, there's a youth survey, and it can go all the way up as old as you are to take it. But you can learn so much about yourself. If you ever take that and you really would like to understand it a little bit, you are always welcome to contact me, and I'd be happy to talk to you on the phone about, okay, what does that all mean now? Call me anytime. I'm always happy. I'm very passionate about knowing your strengths and what it can do to change your life. So another step besides knowing your strength, how are we doing? Oh, yes. What was that one? What did it say? Did anybody see that? After knowing your strengths, goals, setting a goal. This is where the whole New Year's resolution factor kind of comes in, and it is, you want a goal that's doable, and you don't want a goal this big. How many of you get overwhelmed by the word goal? I'm going to set a goal. Ooh, that makes me sick into my stomach, kind of, right? Well, we don't do that necessarily. Some people are okay with that word. Plan kind of does the same thing for me. I'm going to create a plan. Oh, because what I know in my head, that's my old self will say, well, that's another chance to fail. Oh, there's another New Year's resolution you're never really going to do. But go ahead, fool yourself, tell yourself that anyway, right? So being able to set a goal and set yourself up for success with some other things that is a reasonable goal, that's a baby step, can help you actually get there. I celebrate the littlest goals with my clients. I have a high schooler. When he finishes reading a chapter, he's got these books he has to read this summer. He finishes a chapter, he texts me. Woohoo! We'd have a little text party because he finished a chapter. Who else will celebrate reading a chapter, right? That's a little bitty goal, but guess what? He's got his reading done. For him to say, I'm going to read these 2 books over the summer, that was a goal that freaked him out. But we figured out, we estimated how long it would take. He read a page, we multiplied that times the number of pages in a chapter, we broke it down. He made a realistic guess about, I think I can read a chapter every other day. And that was reasonable for him. Some days he read a little more so that he could give himself a day off. He really learned to understand the passage of time, and he learned to break it down into something he could actually do. So setting yourself up for a goal is a really important thing. The next step, maybe, or I might not remember. Oh, I think it's barriers. Anybody want to test me here? Can I check my memory? Ooh. Working memory is not my strength. So barriers, anytime you set a goal, you always ask yourself, what's going to stop you from doing this? What's going to get in your way? Think ahead. If you know you're going to get up and walk the dog every morning before work, I've learned that is a really dumb goal for me because there's a big old barrier. I hate mornings. I know that about myself, so why would I do that, right? Or if I have to do that, how can I adjust so that I can expect that barrier to pop up and I can use one of my strengths to help me do it? Okay? So maybe I'll get creative about setting 5 alarms around the room, or I don't even know, I would never set that goal. But you get the idea. You want to predict what's going to get in your way. And so the next one is focus, being able to stay focused on that goal. How many of you make a goal, but then you forget about it? It's not that you don't want to do it, it's just like you got focused on something else. Anybody do that besides me? What you have to do is be able to stay in the present. You hear a lot about mindfulness right now, and what all mindfulness is staying right where your feet are. Right now, I'm standing in this room. I'm mindful there's a whole bunch of you staring at me. I'm mindful that there's computer people working. I'm mindful Digby's on the floor. I'm mindful that I'm kind of hot in this sweater. There's a lot of things I'm mindful. The sound is kind of weird because I have a strange hearing problem, and it's all like big rooms and loud noises bug me. So I'm aware of all of that. But my focus, I notice those things, and I can hit my pause button. This is, by the way, what I'm teaching the kids, and I'll teach you too. Raise your hand. Put your hand right here. That's your pause button. Now, what I want you to do, we all breathe wrong. Don't go, because that's not how it works. Your lungs are like balloons, so you're going to fill them up with air. And when you do that, the balloon gets bigger. So you're going to puff out your belly when you inhale. Watch your hands. See if it goes out. Ready? Everybody inhale. And now exhale and make your belly go a little smaller. Kind of push it out. That is a great way to breathe, to help get yourself back in what you're supposed to be doing. And what it does is it actually calms down your amygdala. The oxygen can go straight to your prefrontal cortex, and you can think again. So you always hear people say, take a breath. It's a really good idea. And it's easy, it's free, it doesn't cost any money, it's accessible all the time. Hopefully it's something nobody has to teach you how to do. I mean, it's a great strategy, and it's so simple. So push your pause button. When you come up with something, though, anything else that can help you remember what it is you're trying to do, what that thing is that you're working so hard for and want so badly, create an anchor. An anchor is something that can help you get back to it when you lose your focus. This is a board that sits right above my desk. A lot of the things up here are anchors. There's a little sign that says, do one thing a day that scares you. There's a little note from my daughter at the top from about 8 years ago that says, keep skating, Mama. And it was based on a conversation about staying calm and keep gliding through instead of walking with army boots, which I tend to do when things get stressful. I want to keep gliding through the storms when they get a little crazy. That's an anchor, and every time I see that, I think of that. A lot of those things right there are anchors that help me get back to something I'm working on. So create something visual if you're a visual person. Something to hook you and help you remember. And keep it in let it become your best friend for a while until you can keep that thing that you're working on, that change, in your mind. Support. Having a support system, super important. That's what this weekend's all about. We're all about support here. I love it. There's a lot of ways to find support. It can be, maybe you need a little accountability. Honestly, the guy that's texting me every time he reads a chapter, originally we talked about that for accountability, but I told him I want to celebrate. So let's celebrate. And then it didn't become like mother watching over him, because he already had that. It became a little different, but it also gave him a little accountability. And he said, I know if I say I'm going to text you, I will get it done. And he does. So accountability is not a bad thing. We all need it. And if you know you need that to help yourself, enlist that. Find that for yourself. Doing something with a partner, doing something with technology. There's a lot of apps that can also give you support for executive functions. And then how do you keep it going? for the long haul? How do you maintain momentum once it is going? Because sometimes we can do that and then it still fizzles out. So being able to evaluate your goals. If something doesn't work, when I have a client leave and they come back in, they say, I didn't do it. It's like, fine, we just were doing an experiment, data. We now know something got in your way. Or maybe that something wasn't quite right with that goal. Don't be hard on yourself, problem solve. Just think, okay, that didn't work. Let me see. Or that's kind of working, but I'm having this little piece of it get in my way. Just keep evaluating it and see until you can get something that's working good for you. Celebrate the small successes. Anybody here can email me any of the tiniest successes you do from now here on out for the rest of your lives, and I will get that email and celebrate with you. I'm all about celebrating that. And then expect some ups and downs. That's just how life is. Nobody's going to do it perfectly the first time. So if you know that going into it, you figured out what could get in your way, you put some supports in place for yourself, and then you reevaluate and are always thinking about it, anchor it really good so you won't forget that, then you have a much better chance of making some changes. How are we doing, Stephanie? Still 5 minutes behind. We're okay. Always build in a little extra. So we're going to talk about now tools for planning. That I talked really, really, really fast. Anybody going, holy moly, what did she just say? Did that make a little bit of sense? Yeah, a little bit. And I know it's a lot. That's why I really want to get this on the website for you. So you can always email me if you have any questions about any of that, or give me a phone call, either way. One of the biggest things, and you've probably heard about this, I think it might have been Stephen Covey who said start with the end in mind. But there's a lot of other terms that you may hear, like backwards planning, backward design, reverse planning, reverse engineering. You hear a lot of this, and there's a really good reason. If you don't know what the end is going to look like, how are you going to know how to get there? And I use the example when I was a little kid. I love peanut butter sandwiches, but I could not stand to eat a peanut butter sandwich without jelly. I was also the same way about a bowl of cereal with milk, but I couldn't eat it without milk. My mom puts cranberry juice in cereal. I think that's just all wrong. But I need cereal with a little milk in it. And so there were several times, those were two good cases when I was a little kid. I would go to the pantry, I'd get the bread, I'd get the peanut butter, I'd spread the peanut butter, I'd go to the fridge, and we'd be out of jelly. I didn't start with the end and work my way backwards. Most people get ready to do something. They prepare, and then they do it, and then they're done. But we have to start with the end. What does it look like? Give yourself a picture of that and visualize it. I have kids that I'm working with, middle schoolers and high schoolers here now, and they're going to draw it. I'm going to have you guys do the same thing because this is a great way to plan anything. I can plan Thanksgiving with this. I can plan a vacation with this. I can plan a lesson or a session I'm going to have with a client with this. I can plan to clean my room with this. I use this to set up my office because I walked in, it's empty. Oh my goodness, what do I do first? Well, I don't know because I don't know what the end looks like. So I get a picture of that and I drew it out. Once you know what the end looks like, you can break down those steps, estimate the time. You can figure out the littlest steps it takes to get there, and then and how long they will take. That right there is a very complicated process. Because how many of you know for sure you can estimate time perfectly? Not me either. Yeah, right. But here's the deal. How many of you will put something off because you think this is going to take forever? This is a big, hairy thing. Think taxes. Oh my gosh. As much as they would like to have me get it all ready ahead of time, it's still late March, sometimes early April, sometimes I'm filing an extension because it's a big, hairy task and I think it's going to take forever and I put it off. However, how many of you, when you start on those things because your back is up against the wall, didn't take you nearly as long as you thought it might? Once you got started, so we don't do that well, and it causes us to procrastinate. The other thing that causes us to procrastinate, and I see this a lot with kids and their homework, it's like, that's only going to take me 10 minutes. And I'm looking at it going, really? You're good. And what happens is they'll put homework off to the last minute because they think it's only going to take 10 or 15 minutes. It ends up being a 2-hour project, and oh, by the way, I need some poster board. And then they're up late, and then the next morning they're grumpy, and how many of you has that happened to? Yes, that describes my college life. And I survived, but it was not a fun way to do it. Anxiety can keep you going and help you get stuff done. So a lot of us need to be pushed up against the wall with that deadline to get us going. And then the other thing you have to do before you can even do the steps, once you know what they are, you got to prepare. And you got to ask yourself, who or what do I need to get this done, right? So we're going to break that down a little bit. This is another thing, the same people that designed the working clock, Sarah Ward and Kristen Jacobson. By the way, their website, their business is called Cognitive Connections, and you would have to Google that. I don't have their exact website. I think I do at the end in the resources. I'll double check that for you. But they talk about get ready, do, done, and you start with done. And I did this with the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, or I'm going to do it with the high schoolers. And what we do is we talk about putting on our future glasses, or using your future vision or foresight, which is the technical name for it. Look ahead. Some people, that's really hard to do. It's hard to imagine anything besides what is right now. My husband, I wanted to redo the dining room. He could not, I could see it in my mind. That is something I can do, but he cannot. And I tried my best to explain to him and show him paint swatches and fabric and all this stuff, and he was doubting it all. Until I got it done, he's like, oh, that looks good. And I'm like, I know. Couldn't you see it ahead of time? No, he couldn't. So that can be really hard for some people. But you get better at it, the more, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the better you get. And then, so Sarah Ward says that you start with done, you draw what done it looks like, then you go backwards and you go, okay, what steps do I need to make it happen? If I do all of these steps, will it look like my picture? And then you go one step over, you go, okay, who or what do I need? Well, I needed paint. I needed to redo my dining room. I really wanted some new curtains because my other dog had torn up all the curtains in the front door barking at the mailman. And I thought I really would like some new curtains. And I knew, so I had to go get that, I had to plan that in there. There was no magic wand. I really needed my husband to help me because the painting was a pretty big job, and I know he's pretty good at it, so I had to ask him, when's going to be a good time for you? I couldn't just, say, okay, honey, we're painting today, and he'd be okay with that. It wouldn't work. So you have to think about who or what you need and be ready so you know, and you can go get that stuff or contact those people. And then you plan it frontwards. You plan it backwards and you work it forwards. And so then you get ready. Once you've got this all filled out, you can get ready. I can go ask Mike, when's a good time to paint? I can go and get my curtains, the cheapest place I can find them. I can get all of my materials. I can get the paint. I can get the drop cloths and brushes and all the stuff. Get it all together. Then I can start my steps. Boom, 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 boom. I knew you had to do some things first, and I knew there was an order. I wasn't going to hang the curtains first. You got to think about those things. And then I would look at what was finished, and did it match what I had on my paper, my vision of what it looked like. And it was pretty close. I was very happy with it. I couldn't just jump in and go, okay, I'm going to go get some paint and come home and then not have enough and then not know what color it was and then have to go get some more paint and then go get curtains and, oh, wait, they look terrible with this. You have to think about the end first and what's going to be what you really want and what does it look like in the end. This is an example. I had a little kid, 4th grader. We were making dog treats, Digby's favorite activity. And cooking requires a lot of this. I described Thanksgiving, but you really want to know what does the end look like. So we have a happy dog wagging his tail in these little square things, and Digby going yum. That's what done would look like. So then we worked backwards. Well, what are the steps that we need? Well, we got to get the ingredients, we got to measure, we got to mix it up, we got to roll out the dough, we got to cut out the treats, we got to bake them, then we got to put them in a Ziploc bag. This is what the student came up with. And then the ingredients. I mean, what do we need to get ready? Well, we need all the ingredients. It's like me running out not having jelly for my sandwich. We had to have it all. We had to have measuring cups. We had to have all these things. And I can't remember if this is the one. You see right here how this looks like it was added bowl? We started making it, and I let the student plan it. We go into my room, we put everything on the table, we get to the steps, we're ready to measure and mix. We had no bowl. Oh no, what are we going to do? We had to revise our plan, needless to say, and we had a bowl and we went and got it and we did it. But it helps you catch things, you know, when you plan like this. We weren't quite through planning. And the way you can do it is run this through in your mind before you actually do it. So what I want you to do is try it. I see you guys have one. And if you don't have one, it's not complicated. You take a piece of paper and you divide it into 3 columns. It's not hard. And one of them's get ready, and one of them is do, and one of them is done. Or I also call it prepare, plan the steps, and picture it. So think of something simple. Cleaning your kitchen. Or you think of something you have to plan to do. And I want you to try it. I'm going to give you just a quick minute, and I want you to try it. And I want you to plan out. And if you want to work with a neighbor, you can do that too. If y'all want to come up with something to plan together, it's more fun talking to somebody, right? So I'm going to give you just about 1 or 2 minutes. I want you to try that real quick. Go. Draw what it looks like in the end. Figure out your steps to get you there. Don't get picky about your drawing. It's just for you. We have some interesting plans going on. And really break that down. What are the steps you need to do that? And what do you need? If you're cooking, don't forget the bowl. Funny how even simple tasks, you got to really think about all those steps, right? Okay, even if you're not finished, go ahead and come to a stopping place and then look right up here. I see some of you are able to stop. Sometimes it's hard to stop in mid-plan, right? All right, so anybody who got through the majority of planning it backwards? How many of you kind of got an idea of, how, even if you didn't finish, what you were going to have to do this process? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you discovered there are some steps you really don't want to forget because they could be important and you might overlook them? Anybody find some things? Yes. This is just for something simple, but can you see how this might be useful when you're really trying to do something a little more complicated? And it works for simple things, and sometimes I need it for the simple things. And I have to just ask myself, sometimes I don't write it down, I just say, what does done look like? And I picture it in my mind, and you can do it mentally. I have the kids write it down because it's a visual thing you can then hang on to. So I think it's real important to really try to do that. Speaking of planning, how many of you have planners that use planners? How many of you have a closet full of planners and you used about 3 pages of them? It's super important. There's a lot of different planners. Nowadays, there's electronic, there's paper, there's so many decisions. So it's super important that you think about what planner excuse me, is going to work for you. What are you going to need? Are you somebody who needs to see it on paper and touch it and hold it? Are you someone like me? I'm out and about and I need my calendar accessible all the time, so I use my Outlook calendar on my phone. I do a lot of other planning on other pieces of paper, but I got to have my calendar on my phone because it goes everywhere with me. So when my son has a doctor's appointment, okay, let me see. Let me grab my water bottle really quickly. Oh, and not. Do we have any water bottles or any water? Sorry about that. There are different kinds of planners. These are 3 of my favorites. And I'm not promoting anything. You got to just find what you like. The top one on the right I love because I'm creative. I love color. I remember things by color. So there's a lot of color here that makes it stand out for me. I like mine so much I can't even write in it. How many of you had something like that before? But I definitely want to get one that I will write in and use it. There's another planner. This is my favorite, actually, academic planner. If any of you are in school, anybody in school? Students, this is one of my favorites because it's especially helpful for high school, college. Our schedules are so different in college, but along one side you have the different classes that you're taking, and you never have to write that again. It's a longer page, it sticks out. The daily or weekly pages are narrower, so when you flip it, you can still see what your classes are. You don't have to rewrite all that again. And at the bottom, it has, daytime hours at the top, but then evening hours at the bottom. And so, like for my kids in high school, if they've got baseball practice, they can fill that in. And then they can see where do they have gaps. And it's just a really good visual way to kind of walk through your day. Oh, thank you so much. And help you visualize where your time is going and where you have time to do other things. The Passion Planner is also very simple. It helps you with long-term goals, and I really like it as well. And it's printable. You can either buy one or you can even print the pages off. They have PDFs, and you can print it and spiral bind it yourself. It's called passionplanner.com. The academic planner I have comes from orderoutofchaos.com. Well, it's order chaos. Order out of chaos. And then the creativity planner is actually done by a woman who lives close to me. I didn't even know it. She's deaf, and she's very artistic, and she has a company called The Purple O, and she has an Etsy store with that planner. Clocks and timers. They really help us with estimation. A lot of people freak out when they use a timer because they get all stressed out. Again, it's an experiment. I stand in my kitchen, I go, I want to clean the whole kitchen. How long is it going to take me to do the dishes? So I go, okay, probably 10 minutes because I'll start and then this is what happens. Look, oh, the dishwasher's full of clean dishes. Start to unload the dishwasher. Go over here, put all the plates away. Notice on the counter, there's some papers that need to be filed. Take them over to the desk, file the papers. Notice, oh my goodness, here's something that needs to go up to my bedroom. Next thing you know, I'm upstairs. Half an hour has gone by because I found 20 other things to do up there, and the dishes are still not done. So I set the timer on my microwave. I think I can get it done in 10 minutes. Because I know I'm going to have to unload, and then I'm going to load. That's all I'm going to do. I have to anchor that in my mind and say, I use something verbal, some self-talk, and I say, just do dishes. And I stand at the sink, and I'm at the dishwasher, and I'm putting them away, and then I'm rinsing, and then I start to do something, and I go, nope. I go back to my anchor, just do dishes. The timer dings. Oh my gosh, I need another minute. I add a minute, no big deal. I see if I can get it done in a minute. Having that timer ticking keeps me on task and helps me then move on to the next thing. And pretty soon, I'll have the whole kitchen clean if I break it down like that. Otherwise, I'm just scattered all over the place. So timers are a great way to do it. Use it for an experiment. It's not you're not a horrible person if you need more time. No big deal. Just give yourself a little more time. If it helps you stay on task, that's the whole point. If you have a hard time estimating time, one thing you might want to avoid is digital clocks, and get yourself something like this, where you can, an analog clock, where you can actually see the time passing and you know exactly what it feels like for 5 minutes to go by. We can all subtract numbers just fine sometimes. Well, you might be able to, I can't, but on a digital clock. But when I see this, I feel what 5 minutes is like. It goes back to like when my kids were little and my son had no idea how long we were going to be sitting in the doctor's office waiting room. I said, it's about one Barney. Because that was a way to quantify it. He didn't know minutes, but he could sit and wait for one Barney. And so that was a measure of time for him. I didn't even know that's what I was doing, but I was giving it to him in a unit he could use. So analog clocks are great if you have a hard time feeling what that amount of time is like. Okay? Here's the working clock, and I've talked to you about that. The good thing you need to know is that if you want to use dry erase markers, get a clock with a glass front. Do y'all have IKEA here? Or where you live? This came from IKEA. It's a glass front clock. It has metal rims. You can also use magnets on it. So halfway through my kitchen cleaning, I should be about right here. And I'll put a magnet right there. And so you can give yourself a halfway point to check and see. Kids will do it with their homework. Am I halfway through my math? Okay, if not, I need to adjust. And I got it at IKEA. It's Pug, P-U-G-G, and it's like $12. So it's great because kids love to draw on clocks. And actually, it is kind of fun drawing on clocks. How many times have you drawn on a clock, right? So do something like that to help you if you have trouble estimating time. A lot of information, hopefully a few practical tools in there for you to use. And I want to leave you with this message because I know with someone with an executive function challenges, I can get really down on myself. And some days I'm like, how could you have lost it again? You lose your keys every day. Are you just crazy? No. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know there is something inside of you that is greater than any obstacle. And if there's anything I've learned about coming to the TS conference 2 years in a row, is there are so many people who believe that here. So when you have these challenges, don't get down on yourself. It's a skill. You can learn it. Look at those steps for success and see what you can build in to help yourself. Okay? Celebrate the little things. It makes a huge difference. I think there's resources here, some books and websites, and then I also have references, and I will put this on my website. Again, it's www.execskills.com. You can also look for Diane McLean Odyssey Learning. If you Google that, you'll come up with it also. You guys have been a great audience. I know right after lunch it's very hard to keep your prefrontal cortex engaged, so you did a great job.